Symposium coming to Heritage Auctions at 445 Park Avenue. My name is Nick Nicholson, and I'm the Director of Museum and Institutional Services here at Heritage. It is a new position for me and a new department for Heritage, but it's something that indicates how much we value our relationship with institutions, museums, and libraries around the country. It has been a rough month, to put it delicately, with a lot of developments. But the one thing that I find incredibly encouraging is that events like this American Art Symposium and the work of this organization and events around the country show that we're all better when we're talking to one another about the things and the issues we care about, most specifically, in this case, American painting. So I'd very much like to take the opportunity to thank you on behalf of Heritage Auctions for coming to join us. We are the third largest auction house in the United States. We do almost $2 billion in sales every year. $500 million of it is in fine and decorative arts, and that the jewel in our crown is the American Arts Department. So on behalf of Aviva Lehman and the specialists in American art and Heritage Auctions, I'd like to welcome all of you to an exciting day at the symposium and to introduce our hostess with the mostest, Lisa Koenigsberg. Thank you.
So, along with the hostess metaphor, let me give you an apt greeting. Coffee, tea, or American art? So this is the second day that we have together, which is fabulous. And some of what I said yesterday will be woven into what we hear today. There are a few things that are critically important. First of all, in some ways, we live in a culture without manners right now. And the most wonderful thing that I get to do, besides be with all of you, is to say thank you. We are enormously grateful to Heritage for this partnership, which honestly feels so natural and as if we are home. And so Nick welcomed you yesterday. Roberta Kramer spoke, and hopefully you have met the radiant and splendid Aviva Lehman, who has been, a partner in crime, if you will, except that we, in the Marvel Comics tradition, we think we're fighting for the good guys. So that's thing one. Thing two is that something like this, there is no way this happens alone. And so first off, there's Heritage, because we're sitting in their space. Secondly, I have to really speak again, want to, about Marty O'Brien and the O'Brien Art Foundation, because this is really the first time, in many ways, that somebody has said, I believe in American art. I want to do what is necessary to vitalize the landscape, engage people, have a different approach to knowledge about it, explore media beyond those that, for example, are customarily associated. So, for example, a reference was made to American painting. Well, there's American painting, there was works on paper, there's sculpture, there's photography, there's Mr. Orr, about whom we heard yesterday, and manifestations, if you will, that are more three-dimensional. There is the new move toward recognizing, for example, fiber, and there's a great show opening at MoMA that was at the National Gallery, Lynn Cook's show about women in textiles and modernity. So there's a lot happening, and also recognizing the fact that every age has its zeitgeist, that zeitgeist is manifest throughout all things. And, you kind of have to meet the object where it is and figure out what constitutes art, because it's far more complicated than we used to think. So yesterday I was having a conversation with Bo Ott, who is with us, and he was talking about conservation challenges. And, we have art now that is made of materials that previously we, first of all, didn't know about, and second of all, would not have considered the material that might have constituted art. So, one, a more democratic approach to material, but two, how do you meet the conservation challenges that are necessary to preserve that work so that if you buy it, your kid can enjoy it, or the museum audience in a decade can see what was intended. I remember when I worked years ago at the Baltimore Museum of Art, and they had the much more sculptural stelas, and the materials were far less permanent, and that created a whole set of challenges to be met. And that's something that we all, whether you're an artist, you're a collector, be it institutional or individual, or if you're in the marketplace, these are the kinds of challenges that we all need to be aware of. So, my hat is off to Marty, but my heart is out to him because, this all came at a really amazing time. This is the 29th year of this conference, and I can't tell you how touching it is. I mean, first of all, I'll just tell you a funny story about my family, and then I'll tell you what's touching. When I was about 6 years old, my my mother was teaching me arithmetic, and my grandmother informed me that she was 39. And I knew how old my mother was. And I said, "Say, Mom, um, you know, Mom, which is what I called my grandmother, Mom says she's 39 and you're 37. So does that mean you were 2 when I was born?" Now, I was 2 when I started all this 30 years ago, but 29 years ago. Actually, gestation takes time, and I can tell you, looking at Eli Wilner, who's seated next to Jim Dickey in the back row, that the offices of more than one person I was sitting in. Not only was I quote unquote pregnant with the idea of the conference, but with my daughter Emily. So I cannot forget how old this conference is, because two of the most special things in my life go hand in hand, which is the emergence of Emily and the emergence of this. Anyway, thank you, Marty. And the foundation, there is an article about the O'Brien Art Foundation that's in American Fine Art, and there's a second piece about our conference in that same issue, and we're grateful to the magazine for its support as well. Now, Marty did something incredibly creative, and here I'm flashing my ankle in true Reginald Marsh fashion, perhaps, which is this. We have a challenge grant. So we are always striving to meet and expand that match. Yes, folks, if you would like to support the American Art Conference, we are delighted to accept that support. Which leads me to my next group of thank yous. First of all, Steve Bennett and Elaine Milotti Schmidt, who are the Bennett Prize, and they are major champions of figuration of women by women, and have been steadfast in the Bennett Prize. They're now, I think, in their 4th iteration of it. And then on a personal level, they collect more ecumenically, but that same focus. And we spoke yesterday about sort of the limits of the preconception of modernity and how figuration, in fact, can both be modern and express the modern. Um, so Jim Dickey, um, honestly, I love Jim, and he's been with this conference for a very long time. And I'm now tell a funny story about you, Jim, which is one night we were going to the same place, and he got there ahead of me, and I know exactly what I was wearing. And so I thought, oh, gosh. And he looked down at my feet and he said, "What snazzy shoes." They were flat velvet loafers with a little bow. But Jim has really been an incredible leader in the realm of American art for quite some time. And in addition to um, his engagement with institutions, he is a painter. So he experiences and understands process. He is passionate about frames, which is the first one of our conferences that he was in, which was the first American Frame Conference in 1997. And he has also been a steadfast and curious collector and somebody who pushes the boundaries. On the one hand, with a bicycle museum, arguably Schwinn, great American examples of artistry, we need to think differently. And on the other hand, he's just shared that they are opening a museum of Aboriginal art. Is that right? Okay, yeah. But so again, thinking, thinking across categories as well as, I mean, you'll hear from him in the panel that's discussing um, Julius LeBlanc Stewart. Anyway, he has always inspired me, and I'm grateful that he has stood with us all these years. Dee Dee Wigmore Fine Art in your packets, and for those of you that are arriving today, because there are a bunch of people that are arriving today, the heritage tote bags on the registration table. Take one of those. In that, you will find, as we say, a bunch of stuff, including bib and précis that are organized in order of presentation, conference brochure, but also materials about books and exhibitions that we are aware of. And as I said, if you're doing something you want us to let people know, please tell us. We want to do that. And one of the things there is an announcement for Dee Dee's show that I think opened last night. And it's a new way of thinking about farm and soil. And one of the things about Dee Dee is that I never have a conversation with her that I leave thinking the same way. Always broadening the way you think. Her acumen is amazing. And, I'm always grateful. Ken Woodcock, I had the great pleasure of meeting him as a result of the 3 years that we did that, in effect, highlighted women artists to, if you will, expand the canon, broaden the knowledge, whatever phraseology you want to use. And he is an amazing supporter of institutions such as Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts, and also has a deep commitment to the Hale family, which is a fascinating New England family. And he's created quite an astonishing geographical center for thinking about the Hales. Gil and Lagodich, somebody else or two other people that I remember from actually the first American Painting Conference, when came to our office a package of material that followed up a phone call, all about the criticality of frames, which Suzanne Smeaton had begun introducing me to as I would go to visit her at Eli Wilner. And Frames are incredibly important, and we will argue that with the last breath. And hopefully, first of all, you will hear more about them today. And I have been asked, and I want to tell you the following. The section on frames has 3 parts, 4 parts actually. There are 3 short presentations. One on Cassatt and a critical frame choice and reframing project. 2 on Prendergast, and that one is Tracy. 3, a contemporary artist called Stephanie Tema here, who is talking about her frames. And then there is a conversation. So it is not simply a panel about transformative power of the frame, which I obviously believe in, but it's 3 short and really phenomenal presentations to hear. Collis Art. Collis Art is Fred Hill and his daughter Daisy Hill Sanders, and Fred too has been with this conference since the start. And I want to tell you this, in a divisive era, which we're living in, whatever side of the aisle you're on, that we come together, that we stand together, and that we stand together through time is about as meaningful as it gets. I cannot tell you how grateful we are for the loyalty, for the love. We hope we give it back, and we hope we share it broadly. You know, as Marvin said, and you may all know this, I love Motown. Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. So that's what we strive for. And then also want to thank American Fine Arts and the magazine Antiques for their media support, which has been really great. And also, amazingly, Luxury Roundtable, which featured a very nice interview with me. And hopefully the editor and publisher of that will be here today. And it's great to see American art in that forum. So the more we can do, the more we will do. So thank you is critical. Now, enough of me. We'll start with the morning. Our first speaker is John Murphy. I twisted his title a little bit because in the phone call that he and I had, he used this phrase that was so captured me that I thought, gosh, we have to put this in. So to rekindle the dream, New Deal art, culture, and crisis in the Great Depression. And before he comes up in the spirit of championing things, I want to mention that there is a flyer in the packet on the left-hand side for his forthcoming book, very imminently forthcoming, on New Deal art. So you can't buy it yet, but read that announcement, put in your advance order. And one out of sync thing I want to mention is that you'll hear about this other stuff, but the Julian Levy catalog raisonné, Marie de Philippe Antonio, who opened the conference yesterday, and her husband are here. They have an example of the 4-volume catalog raisonné. It is an indispensable work. I use it. I mean, it's really amazing. And they are offering all participants in the conference an incredibly attractive deal, forgive me for that, but which is 50% off the price. And I encourage you, buy it. You do not need to read it all at once. You can, oh my God, I heard a talk on Jean Reynaud yesterday. I'm going to go read that chapter. That's it, you know, but it is a wealth of information, and it's also a beautiful book, and the quality of the illustration is amazing. And Julian Levy is somebody, you know, really due the attention that gives him. Now, having said that, I definitely want to go back to Thames and Hudson. One of the things you will find, I'm a shameless shill for books, as I am for art. So anyway, it's a great pleasure to introduce John Murphy, who is here from Vassar, and you can read about his other publications and a short précis in the bib and précis that are in your packets. Thank you very much.